Afternoon. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thanks for being here today. My name is Stephanie Marsh. I'm the Director of Communications for the City of Akron. We have several important announcements to share with you today. But before we begin, I'd like to introduce you to the folks who are up here with me this afternoon. Obviously, we have Akron Mayor Shammas Malik. Next to him, we have Sylvia Trundle. Sylvia is a retired Akron Police Department captain. She is a certified law enforcement executive and a graduate of the FBI National Academy and the Police Executive Leadership College. And beside her is Robert DeJeanette, a business consultant and a senior pastor at St. Ashworth Church of God in Christ. Both of these individuals served on the mayor's police chief advisory group, in addition to Senator Vernon Sykes, who could not be in attendance today, assistant to the mayor for labor relations, Randy Briggs, chief of staff, Brittany Grimes-Zeringer, and chief of strategy, Nanette Pitt. We will have time for questions at the end of today's press conference, so I would just ask that you save your questions for the end. And at this time, I'd like to welcome up Mayor Shammas Malik for several announcements.
Good afternoon, folks. Thank you for joining us. I'd like to start today by providing an announcement regarding the Akron Fire Department. So, Fire Chief Joe Natko is quickly approaching 33 years of public service with the Akron Fire Department next month. Many of you in the room know 33 years is the point at which you must retire within the drop pension program. Otherwise, you risk losing some of your benefits that you've accrued during your public service. So last fall, Chief Natko let us know that he would be interested in remaining in the role in a retire-rehire function. This is a common practice. This has historically been done across the state and across the nation. One thing that we became aware of was that last year there was an Ohio Supreme Court case that essentially ruled that this practice can no longer be carried out. That once an official retires, that creates a vacancy that must be posted and then filled through the traditional process. With that being said, Chief Natko will officially retire from the Akron Fire Department this month. His last day will be March 22nd. Thankfully, I am happy to announce that we are retaining his talents. Chief Natko will not be working for Akron Fire, but he will be staying on with the administration in a new role that we are creating as assistant to the mayor for emergency management. During the transition, this is a function that we identified as a gap. The city has not historically had a significant emergency management function, while the county has, and we want to make sure that we have that capacity to plan and respond to both natural and man-made emergencies. And so this is a role we were going to fill before the opportunity to retain Chief Natko in this role came up. And so we're glad to have him. It is a good fit for his experience, and it will best serve the city of Akron. So I do want to, at this time, have Chief Natko stand up and be recognized. We are so thankful for your time and your service to our community as Fire Chief. So for Akron Fire, this means we now have an opening to fill. So I am pleased to announce that Deputy Chief Stephen Kaut will serve as our acting fire chief while we conduct an internal search for the next chief of the Akron Fire Department. Deputy Chief Kaut has been serving the residents of Akron for over 31 years. He is a lifelong Akron resident. He's educated in Akron Public Schools. He received his Bachelor's of Science in Accounting from the University of Akron. And we are excited that he's agreed to fill the role of acting chief. So Chief Kaut, if you could stand up and be recognized as well. So that brings me to my next announcement regarding the police chief search. So as our law department began looking into the retire-rehire scenario for Chief Natko, they began looking at state and local law around public safety hiring. They began looking at an Ohio Revised Code provision that essentially says that then when there is a vacancy above the entry level in safety forces, that must be filled internally. Now, our city charter could trump that state law. However, our city charter states that promotion should occur internally, quote, whenever practicable, unquote. So as we looked at this, it does not appear that this charter language is a sufficient conflict to trump what we currently see as state law. And an additional thing that we noticed is that the penalty for willfully violating this state provision is that the public official who does the hiring is removed from office. And this is certainly something that we would like to avoid. All of what I have just shared has been thoroughly researched by our city law department and by outside counsel over the last 2 months. They have worked really diligently on this, and we are bringing it forward to everyone today to let people know in the spirit of transparency how we have been approaching this process. Now, this certainly came as a surprise to me. The city has had 2 prior police chiefs who have been appointed externally, and so as we began this process last fall, I believed that we would have the opportunity to do the same. However, I'm acting based on the best legal advice that I have today. I do believe that previous administrations were acting on the best understanding that they had at the time. So what does this mean for our search process? We have a couple of options. We could place the police chief search process on hold while we pursue a charter amendment on the ballot in November that could clearly define the city's authority with regard to hiring externally. That would mean keeping our acting chief in place for roughly a year. The second option is to do an internal only search, ultimately selecting a candidate from within the Akron Police Department. And while I had hoped to cast the broadest possible net in this process, I don't think it's wise or desirable to wait until November or longer to fill this role permanently. So we have decided to move forward with an internal only search, considering departments from within the Akron Police Department. Now, in line with the Ohio Revised Code sections that I mentioned before, we will be accepting applications from deputy chiefs and captains. It's our understanding that if multiple deputy chiefs apply, that we will not be able to consider captains. So we will extend the deadline for application, which actually is today. We will extend that by 2 weeks to March 18th. In addition, we will review state practice across the state, and we will plan to bring forward a charter amendment in November that does clearly address this issue for both police and fire for future hiring decisions. Now, I promised when I took on this position that I would be as transparent as possible with our community, and when challenges arose, we would face them head on. I didn't know about this exact situation, but I think this is what I was talking about. This is what we're doing here, and while this isn't ideal, I am confident that we will find outstanding candidates for both our fire chief role and our police chief role from here in our ranks. We will continue to engage our community on the direction of our public safety forces and on how we continue to build trust and transparency as city government. At this time, I'd like to bring up Sylvia Trundle and Robert DeJournette, who have been helping advise us on the police chief search so that they have an opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you for everyone attending today. And I applaud the mayor and the administration for being responsive to the information that has come to light. And while an unexpected change is sometimes difficult and can feel like a setback for some, I believe I speak for the whole advisory group when I say that we feel the mayor's actions are wisest and in Akron's best interest, and we are grateful for his leadership in this matter. Thank you.
I also feel that the new police chief appointment is very crucial and important to our community and to our future as well. And just as important is the process in which the police chief is going to be appointed. And I do applaud our mayor for taking seriously his obligation in considering how to move forward in light of the new information that he has obtained in adjusting the process. So at this point, we as a committee, we do believe that the roadmap that the mayor has put forward today is the best one for Akron and for the police chief search.
Thank you, Robert, and thank you, Sylvia, for your words. I particularly want to thank everyone in city staff who's been assisting us with this discussion and these decisions, and particularly the law department that has done exhaustive work on this. At this time, I'd be happy to take any questions that you have.
Do you still intend on having a number of town halls where citizens can meet the finalists for the police chief position?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we'll have at least 2.
And does that timeline look the same as it did before, even though you're extending the application deadline?
We will have to wait for the application deadline to have the town halls, but we are also keeping the survey, both the internal and the external surveys, open until the 18th. And we have, I can give an update on that. We have 1,514 community surveys, and we have 170 department surveys. So we are continuing to get the survey. We are continuing with every aspect of the process except the external candidates. My goal was to cast the widest net possible. I'm going to cast the widest net that I am legally allowed to cast possible. Doug?
The city hired consultants to do a national search for the new chief.
Yep.
Is that contract ended? Do you still have to pay on that contract? Do you get a refund?
No, so that contract's not ended. We have made the firm aware as we have gone through this analysis. The firm's benefit to us extends on more than just recruitment of external candidates. The firm assisted with putting together the survey. The firm assists with helping us review and sort the candidates, and then ultimately helping us make a hiring decision, helping me make a hiring decision. And so they will continue to assist us with this process, and I believe that their help will be valuable. The previous administration engaged with the search firm with consultation with me, and I ultimately still believe, one, that was the best decision we could make at the time when we made that, and I still believe they'll provide value to the community. Bob?
A couple of questions to make sure I understand this. Deputy Chief Harding has obviously applied. How many other deputy chiefs are there? Just one?
There are currently 2 deputy chiefs.
So 2 total. Capers apply or not?
Deputy Chief Capers has retired.
He's retired. Okay.
Yes.
So
We are not going to be speaking as to who has applied and who hasn't until the deadline. The applications are being made directly to the consulting firm, the search firm. So we're not going to speak to who has applied and who hasn't until the deadline. As I mentioned, the Ohio Revised Code lays out a detailed process. Basically, if only one person at any rank, and this could be for lieutenants or captains or whatever role you're filling, but if only one person is able to apply and applies from that rank, you can go down to the next rank. If more than one person applies, then you can't consider the lower rank.
Who's the other deputy chief? I know you're not naming who's applied, but who's the other deputy chief then?
The other deputy chief is Deputy Chief Jesse Leeser.
Jesse Leeser. Okay. And you can't say if he's applied yet.
We're going to have to wait for all of the applications. We're going to have to wait until the deadline closes.
But if those 2 both apply, in theory, nobody else can apply?
Yes.
That doesn't give you any opportunity for a minority candidate, does it?
It does not.
How do you feel about that?
Ultimately, as I've said a couple times, our job is to cast the widest net possible that we can, given the law that we have. The reality is that this is something that we've looked at. This is something that we've pretty clearly made a legal determination as to what we're able to do and what we're not able to do. I believe that we will have an excellent candidate regardless of whichever step occurs in that, or for that matter, with our fire department as well, we endeavor with every single role in our safety forces and across the entire city to have diverse representation, and we will continue to do that. But ultimately, the state law and our understanding of the charter lays out a pretty clear process, and the process is what it is for that.
And if Leaser doesn't apply, does that open up for any number of captains?
It opens it up for all captains, and we are going to accept applications from all captains and deputy chiefs, and we will see who applies.
And I guess that's why you're talking about getting a charter amendment. That doesn't seem like you're really getting a large pool to choose from. Not that those aren't great candidates, but I'm just saying, is that why you think there needs to be something on the ballot?
As I said, as I said before, I think that, and I answered this question at the town hall, I think back in January, I want to cast the widest net possible. That doesn't mean we didn't exclude internal candidates to start, right? We just wanted to cast the widest net possible. I still believe that is the best practice for the city generally, and there are other communities across the state that do that. They have very explicit language within their city charter. So that is something we're going to review what other cities do. We've already started looking at that, and we will plan to bring something in November. And that, again, will apply for the future, but I'm not going to let that hamstring us for right now.
Thank you, Mayor. I know you can't say who, but can you tell us how many people have applied?
I don't have the data for who has applied as of today. Again, the search firm has been taking those applications, and we've checked in with them occasionally, I think weekly. But ultimately, we are going to wait till the deadline before we share the numbers and those kinds of things. I believe there have been internal and external candidates that have applied. And we are going to let the external candidates know today about this decision through the consulting firm.
I don't know if this information, or this is a question for Stephanie later, but what are the specific statutes, and like what are the statutes in the ORC and the charter, like, so I can look them up later?
We can get you those.
Okay.
Yep.
So with this change, are you weeks away or months away from, you think, making a decision on the chief?
That's a good question. We're 2 weeks away from the deadline for folks to apply, but I hope that we can make a decision in relatively short order. We'll have to schedule out the town halls. We'll have to schedule out when we get the feedback back on the surveys and then processing that. So ultimately, I hope that we can make a decision within the next 2 months or so. But yeah, we're not, many, many months away. We are going to make this decision in fairly short order. Did you have a question?
That was Bob's question.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Well, thank you very much, everybody.